A Universal theme park in the UK has now been confirmed. And it's interesting because Universal is entering the UK theme park industry in quite a big way. Strategically announced alongside the opening of Universal Epic Universe, which from what I've been seeing looks pretty great too. I mean, they've got a full-on walking baby Toothless and everything. Not to mention the land dedicated to the classic Universal monsters being some of the most advanced animatronics we've ever seen. It's a serious step up, and now that's all coming to the UK. Finally, I don't have to fly somewhere for this stuff. Don't get me wrong, we do have theme parks in the UK, like we even have our own Legoland. But this completely dwarfs anything we've had in this country up to this point. And it's been coming down the pipeline for quite a while now, to be fair. So let's go into some of the details in case you didn't know. Originally, this site was going to be a Paramount-based theme park with stuff like Transformers, presumably Sonic, as well as licensed BBC IPs such as Doctor Who and, because it was a little while ago now, Top Gear as well. Judging by Paramount's recent business strategy of falling with style, I guess, it's probably best we're not exactly on this timeline, but understandably, apparently Paramount's financial issues are why this never happened initially. Alas, Universal instead stepped in to the proposed site, a company significantly better well off and informed on how to run a resort of this scale. And so now, finally, the deal is sealed. We actually made a video on this earlier when there were murmurs and rumors, but now it's actually set in stone. It is government-backed with the Prime Minister at the launch and everything, happening with an opening in 2031. And it's all round positive news, really. On a slightly more industrial side of the British economy these days, it's no secret that we really needed some good news for the UK economy. I don't know how well versed my audience is on that, but yeah, it helps. And it certainly is good news, as this one park is projected to give the UK economy a £50 billion boost. Massive. It's a lot of money, and it's a lot of jobs to boot. As you can imagine, that's where most of the news articles try to spin this. Most people don't really talk about a theme park based on kids' entertainment. And it's all happening in the region of Bedford. Even since the days that this was a Paramount project, the proposed site has always been here, a disused piece of brickwork 50 miles north from London. An interesting choice, and also it's an area I associate with my ex-girlfriend, so I'm not impressed. Even still, my money is that it's not going to stop them calling it Universal Resort London, or something just for context, even though it is very much not in London. Though I think maybe calling it Universal Bedford would be pretty funny as well. Can't imagine all the Americans being like, Bedford. To be fair though, on the other side of things, the area is well connected. There's a train line that goes all the way through London and then all the way down to the south coast in Brighton. So it's like one train gets you up there. It's connected easily enough to London. Tourists can easily get there. And who knows, in fact, it could even go further on. With us having a Eurostar train connection to France and Paris, maybe there'd be a connection between, maybe not directly because they're rivals, but like the sort of Disneyland Paris route to Universal Bedford. I could weirdly see a Eurostar extension with tourists in mind, I don't know. But anyway, what are Universal actually going to focus on when building this park? Well, actually, we've got a whole entire piece of concept art to dig into, and we can see they've put a giant lake in the middle of it. Gotta get that environmental win in there, I guess. It's kind of funny because one of the current major UK attractions, Thorpe Park, is kind of the opposite to this, which is that it's predominantly surrounded by water, kind of like a castle with a moat. And I think the other major UK parks is something worth looking into first, as that's most likely its most immediate competition. And when it comes to UK parks, much to my own personal dismay, the big focus is on the thrill ride. I hate the feeling of my stomach left behind, but also I've never been on an actual roller coaster, so maybe that's just me. I got traumatized once as a kid on a water slide. I assume it's the same for roller coasters. Anyway, enough of my childhood tangent. The most notorious thrill-ridey kind of theme park is Alton Towers, with a series of roller coasters each designed to thrill in a different way. You have the Smiler with the most inversions in the world, where I'm guessing vomits turn from a risk to an objective. You have Oblivion that drops you vertically into a hole, Nemesis that flips you upside down with your feet in the air, Galactica that sends you up the track face first, and the completely wooden Wickerman ride with the narrative that you're about to be sacrificed. To me, that's just paying for torture, it sounds like, but apparently people like it. And that's one part of the market that Universal seems to be entering here, as it has to compete in a nation that loves rides like that. This is the same country where one of the few currently IP-themed roller coasters is based on Saw, the literal torture porn franchise. So that's one thing just to take note of, but the other, of course, is the wider European market that already has a major US resort in the form of Disneyland Paris. A park that also carries a warning along with it, as this is a park that took a long time to be profitable for Disney. When they steamrolled into Paris in the 90s, things did not start off well for Disney, particularly with the French themselves, with protesters basically accusing Disney of cultural homicide, and even throwing tomatoes at CEO Michael Eisner at the launch. To be fair, I'm sure that was pretty fun. But despite one of the most expensive projects Disney had done up to that point, simple oversights like not having wine available at the park led it to taking over 20 years before the resort stabilized as a business. Now they have all sorts, like a fully themed ratatouille area where you can even visit the little rat restaurant from the end of the movie, each meal coming with a little pot of ratatouille and all the rest of it. And yes, a glass of wine. You can just guzzle down several units over a 3-course meal now and then jump on Space Mountain. What could possibly go wrong? But in many ways, Disney both poses competition on a well-themed park in the European market, along with being the canary in the mine of what not to do. And Universal better believe it that the Brits are going to appreciate having booze available in the park. Although I don't think the UK is going to carry quite the same level of scrutiny as the French. Over here, the most they'll get are murmurs of disapproval from the locals and some hate articles in the Daily Mail, but that's kind of just par for the course. In fact, both of those have already happened. But you won't be seeing any Mickey Mouse toys getting burnt over a fire kind of stuff, you know? I mean, to do that with Universal, you'd have to just burn an effigy of the planet, which kind of feels weird and doesn't quite get the message across. But that at least is the two things that the Universal Park is going to have to compete with for sure. You've got the UK thrill ride sense on one end, and the bar of Disneyland Paris on the other. And so the question really is, what are they actually going to do about it? Hey, you're halfway through the video now. Come along and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers. Well, the thing a lot of the theme park fan community is looking at for comparison is Universal's most recent international expansion in Beijing, of which the concept art for the UK park shares some good similarities. Most notably, with one more kid-focused section, is in the Beijing park, it's themed around the Minions. Well, I mean, they are basically Universal's most bankable characters. They're gonna have a big presence inevitably. They're kinda like Mickey Mouse, but you can have thousands of them. And a toy shelf of Minions doesn't look weird because it just looks like one of the shots from the movie. And so yes, when it comes to the more kid-focused lands, you're gonna have a lot of Minions in there, you can come to basically guarantee. However, the other name floating around for a majorly family-orientated land is our first taste of how they're gonna get the Britishness in there, and that's with Paddington. This makes a lot of sense to me. He's kind of now up there with Mr. Bean and the royal family at this point on an international profile. And that's a big thing to consider. It's not just the UK audience interested in this. Sure, having British icons in there will be appealing to Brits for the familiarity and cultural acknowledgement, but also international visitors to the park want to see that culture incorporated into the theming as well. People from all over the world will now want to get this new park ticked off their list and have an experience that a park in their own country wouldn't have. Basically, you need some uniquely British quirks in there. And where better to start than Paddington? I could totally see everyone lining up to cuddle that guy. The other name currently being floated around is Amazon's #1 agent himself now, James Bond. Not really something I've watched a ton of, but you can absolutely see why there's a desire to use that IP. From live stunt shows to a coaster, you can probably get extra revenue by just having Aston Martin sponsor it. Why am I giving out that idea? Universal, hire me, please. That being said, one British character we may not actually see there, ironically enough, is Harry Potter, which may be a surprise to a lot of people, as that's kind of like the main selling point for a lot of the other Universal parks. However, the thing is, the UK already has a major Harry Potter attraction in the form of the studio tour experience that Warner Brothers owns outright. Alas, why would they hand over that license so Universal can compete with them, you know? This is Warner Brothers Discovery we're talking about here. They will do everything in their power to hold on to every dollar they have, and bleed animation while they're doing so. So yeah, ironically enough, no Potter for the UK park. Whilst on the other side of things, one British property with movies under the Warner Brothers ownership that will probably be there is Lord of the Rings, which would be completely unique to the UK park alone. If they had Hobbiton and all the rest of it realized to the same level as the new Epic Universe stuff, that I think could very well be the thing that will bring in people from across the world. Though maybe don't have Gollum wandering around the place like Mickey Mouse. As much as I'd probably find it hilarious watching that, I think kids would probably be traumatized, you know? But I do wonder if we'll see any of the IPs that were intended for the Paramount Park in there as well. Like, will there be stuff like Doctor Who? It still kind of makes sense. I'm not so sure, as Doctor Who is very much tied into the Disney Plus end of things at the moment. You know, I don't think the mouse would be very happy if the TARDIS suddenly landed in Universal's garden or anything. But there is another expected iconic time machine landing in a big way, as one of the other major lands rumored to be amongst the Universal plan is Back to the Future with a full-on DeLorean-themed coaster. 88 miles per hour, I'm guessing, which is arguably in technology's reach to do as a coaster at this point. If the roller coaster doesn't reach that speed, I think it's clearly a missed opportunity. That is what would definitely pull in the thrill appeal for sure. And you could just see them doing like a straight, here's a background of the 80s, now you're in the desert, like a room change. It just fits. What I love about Back to the Future as well is that it demonstrates how an IP can still be relevant 40 years later without being franchised and rebooted to death. In theory, it should be completely outdated. I mean, the future is like 10 years ago now. Yet here we are, and Universal are potentially doing a whole land based on it. A recreation of Hill Valley and everything. Of course, the final T-Rex in the room that I haven't mentioned is a huge Jurassic World section. I mean, come on. The movie is about a theme park. Every Universal park has something associated with it at this point. And again, this is another speculation based on the Beijing park. It would be weird if they didn't, you know? But there is one point of contention in the theories here, and that is that big green coaster gonna be themed around Jurassic? Or is that going to be a Wicked-themed coaster? Remember, Wicked is also pretty big in the UK. The West End version of it has been going strong for like 20 years and saw the movie's highest performance outside of North America. And so in that regard, a Wicked coaster wouldn't be such a weird idea. I can't see a whole land based around it per se, but a coaster where you're flying around like Elphaba makes a lot of sense. Would they actually be playing Defying Gravity into the ride vehicle as well? Maybe, but I could just see that immediately adding yet another thing that would be unique to the UK parks. Whatever they're doing, it's nice having a story about global commerce that is actually pretty positive and exciting. Sure, it might not have any Nintendo stuff. I'm a big Nintendo fanboy. I would love a Nintendo land in the UK or something, but I would say that I'm literally on the other side of the world for that. But I really can't wait to see just what they do here, and after years of limbo, it's great to see this project finally going ahead properly. And it's nice for the UK to finally receive a big international theme park, both as like an accolade of, hey, we own one, and also, sure, you know, economy and commerce and all that too. It seems kind of appropriate that Universal's giant globe iconography is attached to this. And I think this is very much a story of how international collaboration can lead to positive and creative ends, and admittedly, a whole lot of monetization and profits too. But do let me know, are you interested in theme park content? Would you be coming to a Universal UK when it opens in 2031? I'll certainly be sure to fit it into my 35th birthday plans. And though we've only been really playing around with rumors and trying to zoom into a concept art, let me know your thoughts on rides you'd be interested in seeing or how you do it creatively. But for now, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for joining the end of this little news update. I'd love to hear all your thoughts on the rides and more, and I shall see you all in a little bit. Bye-bye!